Welcome back. The city of Peoria is right now considering the buyout of the city's water supply with Illinois American Water. And a part of that, they have to go through a study to see what that would cost. And the CEO Council has offered to provide at least $400,000 to the city for that study to take place. And joining me now is Tom Fleege with the CEO Council. And from the CEO Council's perspective of all of this, my first question to you is, why is the CEO Council so invested in moving this project forward?
Well, this all began 5 years ago, the last time we had a vote. And as you may know, once every 5 years, the city has an option to exercise the franchise. And in this particular situation, the vote went through without much fanfare, without much discussion. And we began asking questions. What's behind this? As we got into it a little bit, we found out that there's a lot of politics and a lot of personalities. And to us, it seemed that this is a fairly straightforward business proposition. We should be able to do an analysis and decide whether this is a good idea or a bad idea. So I was asked by the CEO Council to lead a committee to do just that, to examine whether or not this is a good idea or a bad idea. And in the process of doing that, we found out some information that was pretty shocking. The fact of the matter is, what we found out is that Peorians are paying twice as much as the national average for water, despite the fact we live next to a river and we live on top of a shallow aquifer full of great water. We pay 50% more than our friends right across the river. We pay 2.5 times as much as the people in Springfield. Why are we paying this much money for water that's easily accessible? Well, as we dug deeper, we found out that we believe that Illinois American is taking a huge amount of money and profits out of our community. And so as we pursued this and eventually created our report, we submitted that to the city, and then we went out and spoke to our fellow citizens. Over the last 2 years, we've spoken to 38 different service clubs and civic organizations, explaining to them what was in the report. If you want to go and look at the report, you can go to the internet and go to peoriaceocouncil.org, and you'll find it there. It's very revealing and interesting information. Fact of the matter is, we surveyed 16 other communities, 9 of them in Illinois and 7 of them outside of Illinois. We pay more for water than any of them.
So let me ask you this. Let's assume for those that the numbers that you all have dug up, let's assume that they are correct, that the city is paying more and et cetera. Do you think, with the current state that the city of Peoria is in, particularly with its finances, we're looking at a $6 million deficit for next year. Do you think that with the city taking ownership of the water company, that it would create a better circumstance down the line for Peorians? You don't think that the city would maybe struggle with that, given our current financial circumstances?
Well, first of all, Eugene, 85% of Americans are served by municipally owned water companies. So the first question you got to ask is, what do they know that we don't know? The second thing you got to ask is, why would we be incapable of managing a water company operation? We're being charged a great deal of money, and a lot of that money is going out of town to profits to the parent company of Illinois American, which is American Water Works. We believe that that money would be better serving our community if it remained right here. We have an option to purchase the water company. We need to investigate exactly what the numbers should be. Now, I'm going to be perfectly frank. If we do the investigation and it reveals that this is not a good deal, or we cannot buy the water company at a fair price, then the CEO Council is going to be the first one to hold up our hands and say, don't do that.
So out of that, not to interrupt you there, but 2 follow-up questions from that. One, what would constitute a fair price? Because last time this study actually did go through, was what, $223 million was what the price, the asking price was.
Correct.
For, and the city backed out. The second thing, so not only what would be a reasonable price, the second thing is, because of that last time, the city was actually sued by that former group. Is the CEO Council willing to say that even if this doesn't go through, that they would not sue, that it would not sue the city as well?
Absolutely. In the offer that we made last January to the city to provide $400,000 in assistance for the due diligence, we've recently submitted a contract substantiating that offer, and in that contract there's covenant not to sue. Fact is, there were mistakes made by a previous organization. The city and that organization got crossways, and it's been going on 20 years. The CEO Council is not part of that former group, and that former group is not part of the CEO Council. So what we're simply trying to do is, since the city is in financial difficulty, we've raised funds to assist with the expenses of the due diligence.
Okay. You didn't answer as far as what would be a reasonable asking price in your mind.
Okay. One of the things that happened during the last time this was pursued was, and this is where it gets kind of complicated, there's actually 3 appraisers. One appraiser appointed by the city, one appointed by the water company, and the third appraiser is appointed by the 2 appraisers. The city's appraiser evaluated the water company at $96 million. The water company's appraiser appraised the water company at $326 million. So they ultimately arrived at some sort of a conclusion of $226 million. We don't believe that's necessarily an accurate or a fair price. One of the things we want to determine with due diligence is what can the water company be purchased for. If it could be purchased for $100 million, that's a no-brainer. On the other hand, if it's going to cost $300 million, probably not a good idea. But no one will know that until this process is pursued. And saying we don't even want to know in an era when we're raising taxes and fees left and right to keep our city afloat, to not even investigate this opportunity, that seems to us like a real oversight.
Last question I have for you, yes or no. There have already been concerns raised by people of the public for city members about a conflict of interest. For the CEO Council, to your knowledge, is there anyone within the CEO Council that might have a conflict of interest or might stand to gain something outside of this?
Absolutely not. If you go to the report, you'll see who was on the committee. You'll see that now deceased former mayor Dave Ransburg was on the committee. Now State Senator Chuck Weaver was on the committee. We had some of Peoria's leading citizens on this committee. None of us stand to benefit in any way, shape, or form from this whatsoever. These are people who have the best interests of our community at heart and want to see its future assured.
All right, I hate to cut you off there, but we're out of time. Thank you so much, Tom Fleege, for joining us with the CEO Council.
You're most welcome.
All right, we'll be right back.